PROC print option and PROC sort. So far we have learned about, just confirm me if I'm audible to anyone. Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. So so far we have learned about um, the initial stage, how to write the data steps. After that, we have gone through the theoretical concept like data portion, descriptor portion. Furthermore, when we have proceeded, we have added about how to write in our data steps, how to write in our data steps, and in that we have seen multiple option as well, that we have like how to read the external files if it is a blank or a missing value, or it's a comma separated, or it could be any other special character apart from these two. These informations we have gone through that already. Now, as I mentioned already, today's topic is proc print and proc sort. Now, what does these two things signify? Let's take first as a proc print. We have used already this proc print option in our earlier classes to print the datasets. Now, it's not just printing the datasets. We can, in a raw way, we can say that we can play with this procedure in order to mold our display results as per our desire. Now let's go through one by one. This proc print options I'm going to split into two subtopics. One is proc print statement, another is proc print option. Now this proc print statement, there are various options which are available to use, like OBS, no OBS, heading, end, split, label, row wise, width and double. Now let's go one by one these things in the SAS Studio directly. So we'll go and open our SAS Studio. So to try all these options with the proc print or later on with the proc sort, let's create a dummy data first in order to understand like uh, what are these options, when they applied, what kind of differences it produces in the result window, and etc things. Yeah, so let's create a data set. This programming what I'm doing right now, it will be available to you guys after the class will end, so that you can just go through these programs and you can practice the same thing in a SAS Studio. Let's start with the sample data set first. Let's create. So before this, let's create here sample data. I'm creating for practice purpose. You can use the dummy data which are already present in our SAS libraries also, but I'm showing you right from the scratch. So sample data, let me create a data set, name patient vital. It basically covers what are the basic vital signs related towards any subject. Now let's write the input statement with PTID as a patient identifier, then which will be numeric. After that, let's write country, from which country the person belongs, and let's write height and weight. Height and weight are in numeric field, so we just have one character variable which is country. Apart from that, rest three are numeric fields. Now I have already told you, guided or mentioned you earlier, that we can use either cards or data lines. Cards we have practiced a lot already. Let's try with another keyword called data lines. These both we can use to signify that after this the data going to read, the raw data would be present until the semicolon appears. So let's write out some raw data. Let's take 101 belongs to England. Height must be 56, it's in centimeter, and weight must be in kg. Let's write 78, and let's write furthermore dummy data. So you can see that I have used data delimiter space, which is by default. That's why I did not use any specific delimiter option, either DSD or for DLM equal to any special character, which was told yesterday. Now this is a basic sample data I have created related to the, let's write all in small case for a better flow of data. Otherwise, as I mentioned you, SAS is not case sensitive, so no need to worry about that. When I'm going to run this, we'll get the sample data name as pt underscore vital. You can see that all data are correctly fetching. Character just one, otherwise all three are numeric fields. Now after this, now we have to apply the concepts of proc print, which I just showed. We'll go one by one and we'll see that how things are. So let's start with the left side is a proc print statement. Now in proc print statement, the very first thing, let's try out proc print data equals to pt vital, which is created before, and run. So far we have done these two lines in previous classes as well, just to print the data. Okay, now if I'll run this data, I want to show you that this is what in your result window appears. Now when we apply certain conditions, how this will change, we'll see down the line one by one. I'll copy the same and I'll paste it. Let's go with the OBS. Now what is this OBS option? If you write OBS equals to and you are writing in a quotes, this will change the first result field, which is OBS, as a heading, or I would say the column name. This will change to as per our desire, how we want to present it. Suppose OBS is not meaningful as such, not able to understand it, so I will write something which is more meaningful to it in order to display in my result. Observation number. So now if you run this patch of code, and you can see that in your result window it came as an observation number. So this is the first thing, how you change your result as per the desire and make it more meaningful. So these kind of options you are having in proc print, not just these two lines which are simply for print. You have multiple option. As per the requirement comes, you are going to use the option by your own understanding and the knowledge, whether at which point which option is applicable for me. Is that clear so far? Can anyone confirm? Okay, perfect. So I'm going to continue with the same patch of code and going to show you the changes, what kind of changes you will encounter. Now it comes no OBS. If you remember that in previous classes we have covered this already. No OBS. No OBS we are using majorly to hide the first column, which is getting generated automatically depending on the row number wise. So if you run this patch of code, this will hide your no observation column. You are aware about this. We'll proceed ahead with called heading. Now what is this heading actually option? Heading option is, suppose if you can see the result right now, it is horizontally written. Suppose I want to change this horizontal to vertical, only the highlighted part I'm talking about right now. So that I'll write it as a what is the option here? Heading. Yeah, heading equals to vertical. The advantage of SAS Studio that if you write something and there is some help text also getting generated in order to identify okay which one is correct. I mean you can use as per your requirement as well. That is the best part about it. So now if I'll run this and I'll show you the code, you can see that only this header parts is getting vertical, whereas previously it was horizontal. So it depend on the requirement. I'm not saying that you have to produce as a vertical or horizontal. No, usually this vertical it's hard to read the data. Horizontal is a most preferred way, but these are versatile options which proc print brings to our table. Accordingly we have to judge that what is the requirement of ours. I'll proceed ahead. Let's copy further about the proc print options. Okay, then suppose it comes, let's take an example of label and split together. Okay, now label and split. Label in the sense, in case I want to change the label of the programming, label of the datasets which you are generating, and I want to modify as per my requirement. Okay, suppose right now if I'll show you the let's take the first data set. If I run this basic without any option, you can see that it's written OBS, PTID, country, HGT, WGT. Okay, these are nothing but like variable name actually. It's coming. So label, if I assign some label to this variable, that will replace the header column header. I mean to say. So suppose let's change this PTID for this we need to change. So I'll write a keyword called label at the top, and then I'm going to write label PTID equals to patient identifier. So now patient identifier is a label if I assign that is more meaningful towards the data. So suppose about think about like you are working in a any firm, any company where you are producing the outputs. So if you produce this output and if you send it for think about a clinical submission activity related PTID, you understood that the variable you have used, which is quite relevant to the understanding, but not everyone is aware about what variable names, why you choose such things. So if you create a label for the variables correctly, that will help you in what? That will help you to present your data correctly, and it is more meaningful to understand by anyone who is reviewing your data. So For that reason only label comes to picture. I have already told you even how to do the label part by using another keyword called attrib before in the before classes. So these are the multiple ways which we can use to define something either by proc print or attrib or something else which will come down the line when we go to proc SQL and all there. By that way also we can define our label and change it, that in for the future classes. So multiple ways are there. It depend on the programmer what way a person want to use or more comfortable at. There is no hard and fast rule to use a certain thing. What option brings to your table, just use it as per your knowledge and convenience. That should be correctly as per the SAS guidelines or the SAS language. That's the only point. So if I'll change the label here, let's see in the output what things get changed. You can see that now the heading got changed as a patient identifier. Now if this data is presented to anyone and someone is reviewing the data, will understand, okay, patient identifier means it's a patient number, nothing but. We know that like patient number is given uniquely to everyone. Like if you see about, if you go to a banking sector and if you check the data sets in the banking sector, you will get the customer IDs as a unique number which is given to all over these bank accounts. Why? Because to make it unique. Similarly, we are going for a patient identifier or a patient number or a subject number. It's up to you what label you would like to use. That should be meaningful to the data. Is that clear so far? Okay. In the same label now, what comes is, if I would like to add some, if you see the data, if you see that this width is increased a lot compared to the other values, this size is getting increased a lot. This cell width precisely, if I'll tell about, think it in an Excel. In Excel there is a table in which cell width comes to picture. So this is quite wide. So what we can do else in order to squeeze the data on the same page, so whenever we are going for further CDS programming in a real time, there if we work on the tables, so tables or listings, so what we do, we present the data in a A4 size, a landscape or a portrait mode. So in such case what we have to do is we have to present the data vertical wise. So we have to squeeze the data which is relevant, because I have just three letter 101 or 23 that's taking unnecessary space of the page. So think logically that you have to squeeze the data so that other data which is quite bigger can be easily accommodated and easily to understand. For such case, there's another option we can go for a labels, because label is a, there is a possibility some labels are small, some labels are big, we never know that. So in such case what we can do is, let's split with the any character. You can go for comma, hash, anything. Okay, let's go with a pipe operator. It's a pipe and then I'll write split equals, okay, give me a sec. Okay, I'll just create another command, otherwise it'll get mixed. I'll copy this proc print again below to show that this is a different one. So we'll go for a pipe, we'll go for a split. So now what will happen when the SAS compiler will work over it, wherever this pipe symbol will come, it will split it, that label of that, to a new line. Ultimately split is precisely we are using to accommodate in a new line, and it will be clearly displayed in that A4 size normal paper. So if I'm gonna run this now, you can see that that identifier went down. Is that clear? It is mainly to squeezing your data and it's making it more displayed wise, so that it's easy to remember or easy to read, make it more user friendly precisely. Now there are some of the other options are there. Okay, what was happening before, we were using SAS Windows, the previous version. Right now we are using SAS 9.4 as the latest one. Okay, now there are multiple options what happened in previous 9.2, 9.3, like previously what we are using. There are multiple options which were available in that particular version. Now the other particular version, if you go and run, it won't show an impact. Okay, like previously we were going for the width also, width double. Width is precisely making it full. Full means like, if I'll show you this command in your result window, you won't find any kind of difference much. But if you go to the older version of SAS and will work and you try to run this command, which I'm going to show now, those things will show you in the result window and it can show you a difference as well. So these are the things, just for your knowledge, you should be aware about what are the other options which are available in the SAS to apply for. Let's write it out. Proc print double. Double is like just to, if you run this command, you see that the data remains same for you. Okay, but if you go to the previous SAS version, what will happen? Double will increase the space between the datas horizontally. It will increase the space. So right now it's not visible on your screen, but in the previous results windows of SAS Windows is precisely what we are using, Open SAS. So in that case, the spacing of between this observation horizontal wide, that will increase. So that is clearly visible there, not in this particular 9.4 version in SAS Studio. There are other options also. We can go for a width option. Now what does this width do? Width equal to full. Yeah. Now width equal to full means ultimately, if you see that, let's run the program. Right now it is showing in the middle of something, middle of your entire this windows and all. Okay. When you have this something called width equal to full and the another option which I'm going to run it now, width equal to uniform, that will just, yeah. So that what changes this will bring, full and uniform will change your result window size. I mean, it will make it a proper uniform width size given to each cell, or you can say each column wise. Right now you can see that the spacing provided and the width length is almost looking similar here. Whereas if you go for the older SAS versions, there you can see that this will make, full means it will take use of the full space of the cell width, whereas uniform means it will show you a uniform manner, the way the data should be presentable. Is that clear so far? Okay, so I'll proceed further with the proc print option. These were the proc statements basically we are using so far. Okay, proc print, let's write here statement. Now just let's try to run the proc print options. Proc print option. So this was a basic command which we are already aware about. So let me start applying over it. Now, what is this proc print option? Okay, now these options where ID, sum, label, these things we're going to apply and see that what changes a proc print will bring to you on table after applying these things. Okay, now see that the very first thing is where. So what where will does, let's pick up the variable we do like to, ptid and country. Now where will only display those variables which you are going to pass under the where option. Previously, as I showed you, this PT's vital contains how many? 4 variables which are given at the top. Right now, I have just selected 2 variables under the where. So where will hide the variables which you are not passing. Or in another way, whatever variables is written under the where condition, it will only go into the result window. So the question could be like, if I'm asking you to do some homework or some kind of requirements, in that I want you to process the entire calculation and entire homework, that is fine. But at the end of the question, if I'll ask you to only print the specified variables only, if there are 10 variables right now you are processing, but I asked you to print only 5, so proc print where option will help you to do that. Did you got it, the point? Did you understood, or shall I repeat? Where? Okay. Where option precisely we are using in order to display the desired variables or the required variables as per your question, okay, or requirement. So if I pass only two variables, PTID and country, it means it will only display these two. If any of your particular question requirement is to display the only specified variable means only certain variables. If you have 10 variables in the input data set, but I asked you to display only 2 out of 10, you can use this where option under proc print in order to display it. There are many ways to do that. Others, sooner or later we learn about what is drop, what is keep. That is in the input data set only you can apply. But these things option will also help you in order to produce your output as the desired one. Did you got it now? Okay. So now let's go ahead. ID. Now what is ID? ID will change your order, the order of the display. Let's if you see that right now, what is the order? PID, PTID, country, height, weight. Suppose I have passed height, weight here first. What I have passed? HGT, WGT. I have passed only two variables here under ID. Now what does it mean? If I pass some variables under the ID, that is given first preference to display the data. So my first column will become height and weight. After that, it will go to the original data and it will start displaying as it is, because height and weights I have already given under the under the ID statement as a preference to display as a first thing, and after that these two will get display as it is. So the order of display gets changed here. Let's run and show the ID part. Can you see that? Height and weight, they have given under the ID as a preference, first column and second column, and after that these two sequence are as it is. Now suppose I change here height, weight. If I change all the order, if I pass, see, country, and then I am passing PTID, so I have changed the entire order. There is no variable left now. I have used all the variables in my ID. So this would be the final display order. You can see that the order got changed. PTID went to last. Actually, we have reversed the order like that. Is that clear? Okay. Um, okay. So let's move ahead. So ID and where these things are done. Now we'll go with the what is sum, label by, page by, and sum by. Okay. So now for the sum value. Now What does sum means? Sum as a mathematical word, it's nothing but the it's going to add. It's going to add. Okay. We can't apply sum over our character. That is pretty common. If I have to do a mathematical calculation, what I'll do, I will ask you to apply one, like 1 plus 1 you have to do. Those are the numeric values only which you have to apply for. So now the same thing goes here. What are the numeric values in my original? So suppose I have PTID in country is fine. I want to find the sum also. So the sum would happen vertically. You will get the vertical summation value. Sum of height and weight. Suppose I want to display in my output. What I'll do, height weight remain as it is. I'll just write sum. Let me just run it. And you can see that the below numbers are appearing nothing but the vertical sum of height and weight. Remember that it's applied only on the numeric for the sum part. And the logs, okay, I'm not checking so far the logs and warnings. I'm sure like it's correct, as otherwise you will get some warnings and errors if you don't follow correct syntax. Okay, fine. Okay, now by, page by and sum by, this I'll tell you after my second topic, which is proc sort, because after sorting the data, these page by sum by would be better applicable. I'll show you at that time at the last of the class. By, page by, sum by. Label, it remain the same. Like I showed you, label are common in both the cases. I have just written that. Now what is proc sort? Okay, now proc sort means, as the name suggests, we are going to sort the data. We are going to align the data either in the form of ascending or the descending order. By default, we know that sortings are in the ascending order in the programming wise. If you don't pass any order precisely, by default the SAS will give you ascending order data. And if you want to pass, if you want to do different kind of sorting, if you want precisely a descending order, then in such case you have to pass a variable. You have to pass a particular this keyword called descending, that will show in the next example. Now what will be the sorting order usually? So let me first apply this much. For this below case, we have to take a separate data set in order to show that how this sorting would be preferred. This way, this is a sequencing, or you can say this is the chronology which should be followed at the SAS ends they are following for the sorting purpose. We'll take a separate example. First, let me simply show you what is proc sort first. Okay, now let's write another topic. Proc sort. Yeah, hello. Sumesh. Okay, so now see, let's start with this proc sort topic. Okay, now this proc sort, what we are going to do is, let's use the same first, same data set which is created, pt underscore vital. Okay, now see, I have created this data set in this manner. Okay, which is ascending order actually. Let's jumble a little bit, or height and weight are jumbled actually. Okay, let's use height and weight simply instead of changing the input data set. So what is the practice you have to follow? Proc sort data equal to, this is a syntax need to be followed. Proc sort data equal to your pt underscore vital. Now I'm gonna write out statement. Now what is this out? This data equal to means this is a input, and out means the data from pt vital, it will get copied to out data set. you can say input and output data set kind of. So PT vital become my input data set and out becomes my output data set. Suppose I'm writing PT VT for vitals. Okay. And suppose I'm gonna sort it by right now not PTIT, let's sort it by HGT, height wise. Okay. Now see, in if I miss out this by statement, now what will happen in my log or the error? This cannot be open as we don't have the columns. The PT underscore vital, if you go here, what it says, no by statement used or no by variable specified. Okay, so in certification exams, even what happens, such kind of errors will produce, and such kind of errors will show you, and they will ask you what is the correct statement to resolve such kind of errors. And even though in your interview question as well, somebody will miss out the by statement and will ask you what is the error, why it is coming. So we need to understand the syntax. That is most important thing. Okay, so here I'm gonna write the by. Now see why I'm using this out. As I told you, this is an first one, PT vital is an input, and PT underscore VT is my output. Now the point is, if you don't use this out, suppose if you just use data, what will happen? The sorting will happen in the PT underscore vital itself. Let's keep it like this. Suppose this is not written at this moment, and I have passed this data set, this particular proc sort procedure. Now what will happen? As per the by statement, I have to what sort the data in a ascending order. That changes will happen in my input data set itself. Okay, so this will also work, but what will happen, my input data set will change. So usually what happens, we don't change our input data set so frequently, because what we have to see, sometimes we have to compare, keep our input data and see that how the data has been progressed. If I want to see that how whether it's sorted correctly or not, I need another data set here, because then I can compare two data set manually and see that whether my sorting happened or not. Is that clear to you? Okay, let me run this and show you. This is my PT underscore VT, which is the output. You can see that height is sorted in a ascending order, right? Whereas if you go to your input data set, it is different. 170 was the second observation, whereas 170 become the third observation. That is like sorting happen in ascending order by default. No need to write any word called ascending. By default, SAS will take it as an ascending order. So if I miss to write this thing, what will happen? As I told you, my input data set itself will get sorted. Let me show you that. PT underscore vital, it will work, and my PT underscore vital gets sorted now. So this became my new data set actually, where my input data set itself getting sorted, whereas our input data set having the jumbled data. So usually do a correct practice to use an out statement in order to save your input data set, and then you can compare it. Maybe possibility that you need the original input data set as it is down the line in your program. So make sure that don't do frequent changes in your input itself. Create a new output data set and then do the changes further as per the requirement. That is called the sorting part. We can sort not just based on the one variable, we can sort based on the multiple variable as well. Okay, like let's take weight. Okay, let's try to sort it and see that this is ascending, even this is right now. Now see, now what will happen if you pass two variables? Here you can see that it is 156, 67, 70. It is sorted. Now you have passed first variable height as a ascending because you do not wrote anything word called descending. It means by default it's ascending. First, what happens, SAS compiler will sort based on first variable. Then what happens, it will go to second variable, then it again sort the same data set in ascending order for the weight variable. But if you go to second, third and fourth variable further, there should be any repetitive data first. If you have repetitive data, then only you can see the changes here. Let me just tweak the data to understand this point. Right now just have a look that this is ascending, 87 is coming in the second line right now, 87. Okay, now, and this is 67 below. I'm going to change this weight, this height to 167. Why? Because these two become 167, then this weight wise, row number 2 and row number 3, this sorting will happen then only. Let's change the input data set once. Let's make it 167 only. Let's run the input data first. Okay, you can see that two datas are 167 and these are like this, jumbled in this way. Okay, let's change the order. Let's make it up. See, 87 is bigger number in the second row, so it means that data is a jumbled format. You can see 67 is same, but these data are up and down. Now if you go down and if you try to run the data now, let's run the data. This says that height in ascending, weight in ascending. So very first thing, height would be in the ascending order. Let's run and see that height is already in ascending. Now the weight is also 87 was in the second row in your input data that came to the third. It means that if you have the repetitive data, then only second, third, fourth variable will come to picture. Then only. If you don't have repetitive data, this single variable is enough you to sort your data. Is that clear when more than one variable are passed or not? Correct, right? Great. Okay, so just one thing we can go for descending. Another proc sort, I'll just write it here. I want to change the height in a descending. Right now, what is coming? 67 is coming, 167 second and third. Let's change the height. DES descending. Now, whenever you wrote descending, it is applicable to first word only. If I have to do again descending, you have to apply again descending word before this weight. So it is applied on the first only. Okay, let's run the data. You can see that, right? Weight, height 167 went up, but weight 87 in the second row, it didn't went up. Why? Because weight is sorting in the ascending order only and height is sorting in a descending order by this program. If you have to again, as I said, you pass descending, again pass the word here descending, which is right now my cursor is where. So here you have to write again descending weight, then you have to again sort the data, both in a descending, then only. Okay, so let's go to this option. Now, what is this option? What will be the, it will sort the data in this order. Let's create a small data set, a test data set, in order to show you how the sorting would happen if we have a multiple values. Okay, let's sort the data. Let's create any subject. Let's create a simple variable data. Let's take test, and the test data set, let me write input x is a input variable simply. Okay, just to show you the order, and this is character, this is character. Now I'm going to use the cards. Let's write some variables, okay, some values precisely. What value this x will contain row wise? So first, suppose I have written a capital B, I'm writing a missing value. Dot, I already told you, is a missing value. Then it comes, suppose, 87, then it comes suppose 56. Two numeric values we have covered, and what else we can cover? Suppose some negative value, -3, some special character, hash. That's it. Okay, in cards you have to apply a semicolon. Did I cover maximum all? Missing special number, uppercase, lowercase. Okay, I have to keep a lowercase also in order to show you. Let's keep small b. Okay, this is just a data, dummy data, which is created to show you how the sorting order will happen. Let me run this data for you. Right now you can see that the way you have written, the same way the data is getting captured in a jumbled order. Now let me apply the proc sort over this and see what changes will happen now. Let's check the proc sort data equal to test is your input data. Suppose I'm creating test2 is another data set. Okay, just to see that the difference, and I'm sorting by x is the only variable it contain, and I'm gonna sort it. Now after sorting, let's see what are they following the pattern or not. This is test2 data. Now let's see one by one. I told you like first point would be sorting order would be the missing value. You can see that the first value is a missing. As I told you earlier, character field x is a character variable. Missing value would be shown as a blank, even though you have to enter it as a period in your input data set. But if it is a character, it will become a blank in data set. If it's a numeric, it will come as a dot itself. What is the second one? Second is coming a hash. Then I told you it's a special character. Second would be the special character. Then comes the number. Now under the number, you can see that there are three numbers I am having. It will start from the negative number first. All the negative numbers will be sorted. Then it comes the sorting order with our positive numbers. All are in ascending order. You can see 56 and then 87, right? Then what about the last thing, upper and lower case? Upper case will go up, lower case will go down. How the SAS will know uppercase, lowercase actually? In computers, what happened? Every characters what we are having, it's having an ASCII code. AS. I'll just type it the word ASCII. ASCII code. Okay, there's an ASCII code for every letter, or you can say every character in our computers. Okay, that ASCII code is nothing but a numbers given. So usually if you see that the uppercase characters having the you can say the small ASCII, small in the sense, if you um, if you go like suppose they have 150, ASCII code start from 150 to 180, assume it. So lowercase ASCII code will be after 180. It means that this ASCII lowercase ASCII code is bigger number and uppercase ASCII code is a smaller number. That's the reason always uppercase will go up and lowercase will come down. You can see in the output data, upper went up, lower went down. Is this clear? Okay, perfect. Then let's go for the this is the last slide, and then we'll check out our 2 3 option which we left earlier slide. We'll apply over it our data. What's a by statement? I have already covered. It's a theoretical part to understand. By statement is precisely we are using to define which variable the sorting order should be, as I already told you under the proc sort by statement. Out option, out we have already seen. We can create a new data set using out option in procedural block, and sorted the data is stored in the new data set only, which is a correct practice to follow. Now what is this other two things? No dupe key, no dupe rec. Okay, now see, focus on these 2 points. The no dupe key option checks and eliminates option observations with duplicate by variables. No dupe key means whatever you are passing in the by, it will see that the those data, the collection of the by variables together, either it's 2 5 or 10 variables, if you collect together to see that whether these are duplicate or not. If there is any duplicate is there, it will remove that particular row. We will just modify our input data to check this point further. To keep the second value and eliminate the first value, we have to use no equals option along with the no dupe key. If you want to keep the second value instead of the first value, if you want to change, otherwise what happens, it will keep the first value and it will remove the second value. To change the functionality, you have to use no equals option along with the no dupe key. And no do prec, that is another one. No do prec option checks for and eliminates the duplicate observation. Okay, let's apply and see. If you go to, okay, let's copy our sample data again. So far it's clear to you guys? See, I'm gonna create a sample data again. Let me going to do some changes here so that we have a repetitive data. Suppose the subject number is fine, is different. Let's repeat the height. See, you can see that height is repeating here, 167, both are repetitive. Okay, uh, and let's repeat the weight because I want to pass two variables. If you want to pass single variable, that is fine, but usually one variable is won't enough to pass. If in a real-time scenario, we pass couple of variables together to make it unique, the entire row. If you work on real data, let's make this also as a duplicate and let's run this patch. So you get your input data first with a repetitive. Two rows are repetitive for different patient IDs. Let's make these same only. It's not possible. Okay, it's possible to remove, but it's not make meaningful. Usually, if the different subjects also have the same data, you should not remove the data. Ideally, ethically, why? Because subject is different in a real-time scenario. So for the time being, I have repeated the subject also. It's a possibility that there was a typo error happened. So two entries have done for the same subject with a different countries is possible. It's a typo error, assume it. Let's run this point and see that we get the data. Now let's run the no dupe key. Proc sort data equals to pt vital out equals to ptv. Let's take subj vital. Subj means subj means subject, initial word I have taken, subj vital, and you will write here no dupe key. Then you're going to write a by statement and let me write except country. We can write everything because those are duplicate. PTID, height, weight. Now what will happen if you write no dupe key? These three will be collected together and then we'll see that combination of all three whether it's making unique or not. So if you make a combination of these three, you will identify that these two rows are duplicate. I did not consider country. If you consider country, nothing will remove because in both second and third row country is different. Okay, let me show you first taking country. If we take country and if you try to run this, you will get all three records as it is because country is making them unique value. Now if you remove the country here, then this is a duplicate. You can see that England and New Zealand are the two countries data is appearing. You can see here England and New Zealand. The first record is getting picked. As I mentioned you have to take the no equals if you want to change the functionality of second and first observation wise. I think these things are fine. Yeah, let's go and check our first one. Okay, page by and sum by. Now what is this? Now by option is clear. In this also we are going, yeah, let's write it here. Okay, we will run our vitals first. Sample data, then we'll go down. Now we will do modification to understand this page by and sum by. Okay, sum by. Sum by, as the name suggests, the word I have already told you, by. Okay, in this, give me a sec. Okay, yeah. Okay, before that sum by, let me tell you the by first. Let's create another patch of code below and we'll modify it now after this. So these three, give me a sec. I think I copied a wrong one here. This is fine. This is for the sum. These three should come down. I have mixed them. Okay. Now leave this. Remove this. Remove this. Okay. ID, as I mentioned you, ID is for the if you want to change the order, if you are particularly changing the order of some data set wise, right? So let's take an ID first to show you, then by after that along with that same. So if you go for ID, suppose initially right now is what, patient ID, country, height and weight. Okay, let's take some numeric value first, height, HGT. Now if I'm going to run this by this ID first, it will what do, it will change the order. The numeric value height will come first, rest will remain as it is. Now over that I'm gonna apply the by statement over the same variable. Now what changes will happen in this case? If you come and see that, now by means here they are going to group the data separately. Height, we previously I showed you, we have just two rows, three rows we are having. Okay, three rows as it is. Now 167 is a repetitive data here. If you come here and see the data, you have 167 as a repetitive value. That's the reason of what they did. They have clubbed two records under the same, whereas 156 is a different standalone. That's why they have written like this. Suppose we have different datas, if there is no repetitive data, then we get a three different tables. This small tables will be three different one. There will be no grouping will happen then. Since we have a repetitive data, the grouping part happened here. Is this clear, the by part? Why this by will help you? Okay. Now over the same, further we're going to extend over this by part only. Let's copy these two line and apply sum by. Sum by over the same numeric variable. Then we will be getting some value in our result. Now you can see that this is remain as it is, whereas the sum value is coming for 205 and 306. Let's make it simple. If it's getting confused, let's make it unique in order to see the data correctly. I just reran my sample data again. I just made all the things as a unique for the time being, and let me run again this by statement for you guys. So if I'll make all the, what happened, not sorted in ascending order. Okay, you have to sort it. Let's make it ascending order data. My data is in ascending order at this moment. When we go to our by statement, I'm gonna run this. This is how, if we have a unique data, three different groupings are happening differently. Previously, since we have the duplicate datas, 61, 67, both are getting combined together. And here, now if you do proc print with the sum by statement, now see what data you are getting. You are getting the sum of all the PT values here, sum of all the weight values here, sum by. Is that clear? Sum by will do on the same on the numeric. Okay. Now the last thing which is left is page by. That is the last topic for the day. Now for the page by. Now what will happen to the page by side? Page by will do in a different page. As per the value wise, it will split your output in a different page wise. You can see that there is a line. It means these are three different pages is getting print to. Pages are different for all three. How? Because I have passed page by depending on the height. So whatever different values of height, we have three different values of height, so three different pages. We have 100 different values of height, then 100 different pages will get created in the output. Was this clear? The entire session for the day?